see. What might they be saying today? Well, he only made those plays off schedule because the Lions were so concerned about the Niners' skill position guys that they lost track of Brock Purdy. Or the Lions just choked. Or he got lucky because the ball bounced off a guy's helmet into Brandon Ayuk's hands. What else could there be? What am I missing? What other dismissive commentary?
You gotta say something about the. You gotta say something about the officials. You gotta, there's gotta be some excuse. Some excuse.
Some reason why Brock Purdy keeps living this charmed life that he has nothing to do with. This game manager system quarterback finds his way in the Super Bowl. I just tell me what it is, because it can't be him.
You know what's funny though?
We've established that it can't be him. It's everybody else but him.
Can I tell you? First of all, you look like you're 19 years old with that haircut. I love it. Taking it down. I haven't seen it that low in a while. It's probably a sore subject.
As a matter of fact, no, it's not a sore subject.
Because the barber wasn't supposed to take it that low.
No. Country would never do that. Country would never do that. No, I'll tell you exactly what it is. My wife, you know the difference between asking and telling, right? So this wasn't a polite request. Because, some things been going on in my household lately, so I had missed quite a few barbershop appointments the last several weeks. So it was a little out of control. And my wife was like, cut your hair. And she said it just like that. She's like, get your cut. She said it just like that. And it wasn't, after 20-something years, whatever it's been, 18 of marriage, I know that number. But she was like, I knew that this was not I could just go and just get it neatened up or lined up, get a lining or whatever, get it tapered, get it faded.
You knew what that meant.
No, I need to cut it. And she pointed to a picture from our wedding. She's like, I want it like that. I want the guy back that I married, not this shit. She pointed out a picture that we took 2 years ago. We had a family photo shoot where she was leaning on the top of my head and it was mashing my hair down. And she was like, get rid of that shit. You've had it for the last several years. I'm sick of it. Cut your hair. And I was like, okay. And I just went to the barbershop. I was like, take it all off. Take it all off. I was like, this was not one.
Country was like,
about to trifle with this woman.
Country was like, you sure? But, hey, it ain't even a discussion.
It's not up to me. It's not up to me. Happy wife, happy life. It's not up to me. The boss lady said cut my hair, so I cut my hair. So here we are.
Listen, we've all been there. And if you haven't been there, just keep living. You'll get there eventually. I will say this. You're right about Brock Purdy, and there are no excuses. But, hearing you start off like that, and you're absolutely right, people will come up with excuses all the time. Michael, you and I are on the same page.
No, we are. That wasn't directed at you. That wasn't directed at you.
No, but it should be. But we're on the same page. My issues with the 49ers are exactly what you just said. The excuses. So I also like it when there are no excuses to be made. I don't like when they make excuses about, Brock Purdy's not available. We would have won without Brock Purdy.
Right.
So there are no excuses from yesterday. But during the game, when they were down 24-7, and I saw Kyle Shanahan cussing into his headset, and I think I read his lips saying something about defense, I'm like, oh, here we go. Last year's excuse was Brock Purdy. This year, step right up, Steve Wilkes. We got some nice parting gifts for you. This is about to be your loss.
That's where it was headed.
This is about to be yours.
When the Lions were gashing the defense, for sure. They definitely did.
And he said defense. No. I don't know what he said.
Yeah.
I don't think he was saying great defense or, hey, let's go defense. I think he was saying bleep, 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 bleep defense. So, look, Brock Purdy, you've got to give that man his credit after what he did yesterday. He was a nuisance. And I say that with respect. He was a nuisance to the Detroit Lions. They had him, how about the one where they have him wrapped up and think like he's about to take a sack? He wriggles out of the sack and picks up positive yards. Or when they got everything covered and he takes off and uses his legs multiple times to pick up critical first downs when they needed to get back in the game, everything they could get. Brock Purdy played great yesterday. Brock Purdy was was a big part of why the San Francisco 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. He was not a passenger. He took on the cross country trip from San Francisco to Connecticut. On a cross country trip, he drove through the Midwest. Okay, he wasn't just sitting there sleeping. He did some driving
overnight
in the middle of the night. Overnight, that's right. Overnight, you need those overnight drivers. He was a glue guy yesterday.
And didn't always do the speed limit. You know, no. This is refreshing to hear. Refreshing to hear that I don't have to do the heavy lifting when it comes to the Brock Purdy narrative. But your only issue with Brock Purdy was, it was never the player. It was what you perceived to be hyperbole. On my part, I feel like I was the one that started it. The Brady comparisons last year, when he took over last year, the Brady comparisons rubbed you the wrong way. Invoking the name of Tom Brady, I recall rubbing you the wrong way. And again, nobody ever said he was Tom Brady. He just had a similar effect, a similar galvanizing effect on this offense. But this is a win not just for the 49ers. This is a win not just for Brock Purdy. This is a win not just for Brock Purdy sycophants such as myself. This is a win for system quarterbacks everywhere. Because the number one job of the quarterback is to manage the game. And whether you realize it or not, people, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again for the cheap seats, or the people who may not have heard me say this before, they're all system quarterbacks. I'm going to say that again. They're all system quarterbacks. Some of them make the system go. Some of them benefit from the system. And a lot of people around the league don't fear Brock Purdy as much as they fear the 49ers system. Guess what? It doesn't matter. They're in the Super Bowl. And they wouldn't be in the Super Bowl without Brock Purdy, to Michael's point. I believe they're favored. They wouldn't be favored over Patrick freaking Mahomes and Andy Reid, who are going for the fourth time in 5 years. They wouldn't be favored over them if not for Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy has dynamic ability. We saw it yesterday. Like, you can't be a robot that Kyle Shanahan is pressing the right buttons for and play off schedule the way he does at the same time. That's not how that works. And I get he's throwing to Christian McCaffrey, and he's got Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk and so on and so forth. But like Brock Purdy, once and for all, dead to Brock Purdy slander. Because I told you a long time ago, it stopped being about football with Brock Purdy. I still don't know what it really is about, because nobody's told me clearly and definitively what the Brock Purdy slander has been about. But I did a conversation. I had a conversation recently, Michael, with our man Wood Harris, the actor Wood Harris, one of our favorite actors, one of the most. Well, he ain't even underrated to the people who know. Maybe mainstream don't appreciate Wood Harris the way they should, but those that know when it comes to Wood Harris. And Wood Harris, we talked about just being undeniable, just as an actor being undeniable.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for any walk of life, but in this context, as a quarterback, Brock Purdy at this point is undeniable. It's undeniable the difference that he makes, the plays that he makes, on or off schedule. And whether it's Montana, whether it's Young in San Francisco, whether it's anybody who's played with Andy Reid, including Patrick Mahomes, already one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But I would include Patrick Mahomes in that, including Tom Brady. Because, see, I think people confuse, and don't lose your thought, but I do want to get this out. I think people confuse system with scheme. And those aren't necessarily the same things.
Okay.
I think some people think like, okay, this quarterback is only good because when I say they're all system quarterbacks, they're only good because they're reading half the field, or the play design is so ingenious that a nutless monkey could do their job. Shout out Tom Cruise and Tropic Thunder. You know what I'm saying? They feel like, oh, okay, like anybody could do this because of this genius play caller in Bill Walsh or whatever. But when I think of system quarterbacks, I think of infrastructure. I think of the head coach. I think of ownership. I think of personnel. I think of the defense. I think of the team. This is why this is why wins and losses are not a quarterback stat, with few exceptions. When somebody wins as much as Brady or as much as Mahomes, you can't divorce them from that. So we make some exceptions when convenient. We talked about this before. When it's so out of whack with something like, or even Lamar with Baltimore, mostly in the regular season. We'll get them in a second. But you can't divorce them from that stat. But nonetheless, when you are on a great team like the 49ers have, when you're on a great team and a part of a great organization like the Chiefs have, it is not a pejorative to call a quarterback a system quarterback. Like when Andy Reid has won with Donovan McNabb and Alex Smith and now Patrick Mahomes, there's something to be said for said system. All the quarterbacks that won Super Bowls, all three of them that won Super Bowls under Joe Gibbs, they were system quarterbacks, but they were still Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. You know, all the quarterbacks that have thrived under variations of the West Coast offense with the right head coach. Tom Brady, yeah, he won in Tampa. He absolutely won in Tampa. But does he win 6 with anybody other than Belichick? We've had that conversation ad nauseum. So if you want to call Brock Purdy a system quarterback, be my guest. But you're calling him a Super Bowl quarterback, an NFC Championship winning quarterback, and it's very early, but I'm not going to jump off this bandwagon yet. You're going to call him a Super Bowl winning quarterback in a couple of weeks.
Ooh,
you're going to call him a Super Bowl winning quarterback in a couple of weeks. System or not?
No, wait, slow down, player.
What is my last show for a while? You know, as you know, this is my last show for a little while. So I got to get my prediction in now.
But take your time. You may want to change that. You may want to change it. Take your time. Take your time. You know.
That's not smart, is it? That's not very smart, is it?
You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it yet. We're not on the record yet. You don't have to declare. It's early in the game. But I think I know what it is.
Nobody's going in motion to make me declare my coverage right now.
Yeah. You don't have to. You're like, oh, I know what it is. Nope. I'll tell you what it is with Brock Purdy. You know the problem is with Brock Purdy for a lot of people is they feel like he has just stumbled into the kingdom. He's just stumbled into this dumb luck, and somehow he doesn't deserve it. Now, I don't know if they feel like that after yesterday, after watching it. I don't know if they feel like that after the last 2 weeks, because he did make plays when he needed to make plays at critical times, even though overall he was not good against the Packers. He played really well when he needed to against the Packers. I thought they were going to lose that game. He pulled that one out. They were down in the fourth quarter. He pulled them back and on to victory. Like, yesterday, obviously down 17 points at halftime. He made a lot of big plays and big throws that got them into the game. But I think the Brock Purdy position, like people kind of looked at the position like, oh, you can put anybody in there. You can put anybody in there. And you talk about the cheap seats. Can we say something else to the cheap seats? You can't put anybody in any place of value and expect just to get great results from anybody. It doesn't work like that. Even if it looks easy, people who make it look easy, it's not as easy as it looks. You can't just throw anybody in there. If that were the case, why didn't Trey Lance work out? Why did they move on from Jimmy Garoppolo? You can't just throw anybody in there. You're fortunate, both things can be true. You can be fortunate to be in a great situation, but also be worthy of holding that position. It's like, I remember years ago, you remember the writer, shout out Sports Illustrated, rest in power, Sports Illustrated, what it used to be. But remember Gary Smith? Gary Smith from Sports Illustrated.
Of course.
So,
one of the GOATs.
I remember talking to a sports writer friend of mine years ago, because Gary Smith just wrote these deep profiles that nobody else could really access that level of profile. And a devastating reporter, devastating writer.
Pat Summitt going into labor on a recruiting trip type thing.
Yeah, I mean, he combined great reporting, great writing, and just put it together like nobody else. I remember a sports writer friend of mine saying years ago, well, if I had all the time that Gary Smith does to work on those stories, I'd do that. So, no, you can't. No, you can't. Stop it. No, you can't do that. I'll give you more time than Gary Smith to do it. I'll give you more time. I'll give you Gary Smith's notes. But you can't. So it's disrespectful just because we think the team is loaded, and the team is. San Francisco is loaded. You throw somebody into Brock Purdy position. Brock Purdy, he's just like some replacement level quarterback, and he's doing what anybody else in that position can do. And I may have got him caught up in that because of my antipathy toward the San Francisco 49ers. It was unfair. Sure. He's a good quarterback.
No, he is. What you cannot say after yesterday when it comes to Brock Purdy is that the Niners don't win because of him. You can't say it after these playoffs that the Niners don't win because of him, that he's just along for the ride. You can't. So I appreciate your I appreciate you coming around fully onto this Brock Purdy thing. So, fantastic comeback. I mean, all of a sudden, Kyle Shanahan teams got you right where they want you when they're trailing. You know what I mean? But I think we got to talk about the Lions, the official team, a brother from another. And I was emotionally conflicted yesterday, Michael. I kind of missed the Eagles because that would have made it easy for me. If your Eagles would have held up their end of the bargain, that would have made it easy for me yesterday. But my rooting interests were quite aligned because on one hand we have the official team, a brother from another. Even though, yeah, sure, did I think that the Lions curse would rear its ugly head 2 weeks ago against Matthew Stafford's Rams? Yes, I did. But I got enough equity and credibility when it comes to these Detroit Lions to get a mulligan on that. I get a pass for that. So the Lions, and we called this like somewhere in the middle of the season. The Lions were going to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. And we were halfway there, Michael. We were literally halfway there.
Halfway there.
And we knew they were not going to back down, that the Lions had no fear. These were not cowardly Lions, that they had no fear of anybody, including San Francisco. We got the performance from Detroit for the most part that we expected. So the official team for brother from another on one hand, and on the other hand, obviously, for purposes of this year's program, my San Francisco 49ers, which they were really my 49ers vis-a-vis your Eagles, but yeah, okay, whatever. You guys weren't up to the challenge.
That didn't work out.
That didn't quite work out. But anyway, the Lions. Shout out to Dan Campbell, because it's easy to be true to yourself in the regular season and be who you are in the regular season and be who you are unapologetically for a lot of people until it's time to maybe apologize.
Yeah.
And Dan Campbell made no apologies for dancing with who brung him, for sticking to who he's always been. And I appreciate it. And if I got any criticism for Dan Campbell when it comes to being aggressive, it's not going for it twice on fourth down in the second half. It's not eschewing a potential game-tying field goal and going for it on fourth down. Honestly, my only gripe with Dan Campbell, I was shocked he didn't go for the touchdown before halftime. That was the biggest surprise for me. When they were in close and he settled for that field goal, I just knew that man was going to try to go for the dagger through the heart. I just knew that man was going to say, no, we came here. We did not come here to play it safe. I'm not taking the points. I'm taking your heart. And I'm not second guessing him because the traditional call is to take the points in that situation. And I understood why he did it. But that didn't seem like a Dan Campbell call to me. That seemed like somebody may have talked him out of that. A Dan Campbell call would have been to go for the touchdown and make it 28-7 as opposed to 24-7 before the half. That's my only criticism of Dan Campbell. But let me make sure I get this right, because I read it this morning, and I want to cite it. This year, well, not this year, I beg your pardon, not this year. Is it this year? Oh yeah, it is this year. 17 of 20 fourth downs that required 3 yards or fewer this season, the Lions had converted. 17 out of 20. They happened to go 0 for 2 yesterday. They happened to go 0 for 2 yesterday. So, Dan Campbell didn't lose in that game. Dan Campbell was Dan Campbell. The players at some point got to make plays. They didn't make plays. We saw the Josh Reynolds drop. Jared Goff was off target. There were other plays to be made besides those fourth downs. But I love the Lions being themselves all the way up until the end. All the way up until being their aggressive selves. Because that was the only way they were going to win this game was being the same team that they had been all the way through. It just didn't go their way. But Detroit should be proud. I'm not saying it's a participation trophy.
Oh, it hurts.
But the Lions have graduated from that. The Lions have graduated from being a cute story and just happy to be here. They have championship medal and DNA. So this is disappointing. Like you said, two things can be true. This is disappointing This is tied for the largest blown lead in the NFC Championship game history, 17 points. This stings. This will be a day that will live in infamy in Detroit. But they can still be proud of this team for the season that they had, the turnaround that they've had, and the fact that they went down swinging.
I can't be proud in January. I can't be proud in February, especially when you watch the Super Bowl. When you live in Detroit, you're going to watch the Super Bowl. You're going to watch San Francisco and Kansas City in the Super Bowl, and the sting will come back. It will come back to you. You'll think you're moving on. It will come back. That's pride effing with you. Okay, it's just going to haunt you for a long time. But It's really going to mess with you. I can't be proud in March. Maybe on draft day, it will dissipate a bit. Michael, I just feel for the Lions fans.
We talked about this, we did a whole show. We did a whole show devoted to this. Was it 2 weeks ago? About just fans and the fan experience, right?
If they had lost 40-7, okay, then you could go same old Lions. If they don't show up, if San Francisco jumps them, gets a 21-point first quarter, they're down 35-10 or something like that, 35-3 at halftime, just something crazy, you say, okay, same old Lions. But the 3-win team,
well, you can still say
Campbell's
same old
first
Lions.
season.
I mean, some would still say that. Some would
I
say
know
that
they
it
will.
wouldn't be the Lions that be the one
But
team to lose this. Some would say that.
They'll say it. They'll say it, but the expectation is not same old Lions. The 3-win team from season 1 for Dan Campbell. Okay, 3 wins. That wasn't impressive. 9 wins. They got everybody excited in year 2. And then year 3, they had the same record as the 49ers. Yes, the game was in San Francisco. It very easily could have been in Detroit if the officials had gotten it right in Dallas with the whole 2-point fiasco. They're both 12-5 teams playing for the NFC Championship. So the expectation was for the Lions to go from being cute and cuddly. You got your 2 wins at home. Now it's time to take care of business. Dan Campbell didn't lose in that game. They melted down. It was a meltdown. It wasn't the 4th down. They melted down. If you think about it, I'm watching them say, I can't believe they're all melting down. Josh Reynolds, you got to catch. There are 2 drops from Josh Reynolds. It's not the 4th down. It's not the decision to go for it. The decision the decision was good. Dan Campbell once said, Michael, we played it on the show. I think after maybe they clinched the division. He's in their post-game locker room. I love Detroit's locker room after victories. And he said, you know what this tells me? We got the right dudes. We got the right dudes on this team. Yesterday, the right dudes melted down. What we talking about Dan Campbell? It's the players. Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm sorry. I don't care what Greg Olsen says. Oh, he had it in the wrong hand. You can't fumble. It's 24-17.
He was spinning.
You know you're trying to calm yourself down.
You're trying to do too much.
And you're fumbling. Reynolds, the drops. I mean, just like the whole team.
Goff missed Gibbs open
bad
for a
tackling.
Yeah.
You're making a play. You got to play, and the ball hits off your helmet. It was an entire team meltdown. In that sense, it was the same old Lions because they had control of the game and they didn't know what to do with it. And maybe what Campbell could have done had nothing to do with 4th down. Maybe what he and his coaches could have done is just gone to the players and be like, look, here are the stakes. Okay, I think it was with 22 minutes left in the game. So 7 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Still had the lead. You got the lead. Calm your ass down. We're trying to go to the Super Bowl, and I don't need you to do this. I don't need you to make a play in 10 plays at once. I don't need you to do it. I don't need you to do it. We just need to be calm. We're better than this team. We can run at will. We go for it on 4th down because we believe in our scheme.
This is you in character, right? But this is you in character. We're better than this team part, right? I just want to be clear. That's just Dan Campbell talking.
And character.
Okay.
And character.
Okay,
because they're not better.
Right. I just want to be clear. Well, that's the thing.
Because they're not better.
That's the thing. They were not the better team, and I'm not making excuses for Detroit. It was their game to win, okay? But I guess because they're the official team of Brother from Another, and you and I have been in love with this build and this story, in this organization for the last 3 years. We have seen the vision. It's really hard for me to see this thing as anything other than half full. Some have accused me of being an eternal optimist. I am optimistic when it comes to the Lions because I think this is the beginning, not the end. I don't think this is their only shot at this. And now I know there are no guarantees. I know plenty of teams have gotten this far only to never see it again. Hell, it was their first NFC Championship appearance in forever. They just had their first home playoff game in forever. They haven't won a championship in a lifetime. I know Lions fans are sick of, wait till next year. I know they're sick of that. I know they felt like their time was now, that this was the team. I get all of that. But this just does not strike me as a flash in the pan. It's why I'm optimistic about this. Look, Jared Goff is always going to be Jared Goff, but as Dan Campbell said just a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, you're fucking good enough for Detroit. When he gave him the game ball.
Yeah. Talking about Jared Goff.
Right. This is a team that their rookie class helped lead them this far. Whether it was Gibbs, whether it was Campbell, whether it was Laporta, whether it was Branch. I mean,
great.
This team is so young and ascending until I don't look at this as their window opened and closed all at the same time. I think Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, even if they lose Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, I still think they have the infrastructure, the system to have staying power.
Okay.
So that's why the sky isn't falling for me in Detroit today as
because you ain't there,
a fan of this story. No, because I'm not
why
there.
The sky ain't falling.
Because I haven't lived it.
Because you're under different skies today.
I'm under different skies.
You're not under that.
I haven't lived it.
You're not under a Michigan sky.
Suffered. I have you're absolutely right. I have the benefit. It's very convenient because I can come and go as I please. I don't live and die with the Lions. I can like the Lions and love the story, but I don't live and die with them. I didn't go to Mumford High. I love 8 Mile, but that's about as close as I get to 8 Mile as the movie. I get all of that. This is real easy for Michael Smith to say from Cushy, Connecticut. But nonetheless, I see a young team that is not done, that is just getting started. And I think that's the message that whether you're Dan Campbell or whether you're Brad Holmes, whether you're ownership, once you get over this hurt, you're like, let's get back to work. Let's get back to work. Because they're not the first team to suffer disappointment in the playoffs. What's interesting
but I know they're not.
But you know what's interesting about the NFL versus, like, say, the NBA conversation? In the NBA, when we talk about the playoffs, we almost never expect teams that haven't been there before to break through overnight. We almost always say you got to suffer from some disappointment. You got to go through, some setbacks, some heartbreak, some heartache before you eventually get over the hump. Without fail, whether it's an individual superstar or whether it's a team, we never expect a team to skip a step, to take the elevator to success. They got to take the stairs, right? Why in the NFL, which I know stands for not for long. I know, it's built for parity. It's built to turnover. It's built for teams to go from worst to first. I get all of that. But why don't we ever look at it as like, okay, this team will be back. There's no guarantees that they'll be back. There's a difference in there's nuance here. But why can't we see the bright side of this? Like, the Lions went from 3 wins to
9
to 9 wins. To division champion, first home playoff, like an NFC Championship game, and had a 24-7 lead. Like they had a 24-7 lead. Like,
don't say it.
If you want to stop being same old Lions, being same old Lions, stop looking at things through the prism of you choked, but look at it through the prism of, we had the stake to begin with to choke on.
I love you.
You're not buying this? You're not buying this?
I love you, man.
You're not buying what I'm selling?
You know this.
You're not buying what I'm selling? It's about the journey, not the destination. Because when they win this thing next year, when they win it next year, they're going to look back at this moment as a watershed moment. They're going to look at it as, wait for it, an inflection point in Lions history. They're going to look at this. I believe in my own bullshit right now. They are going to look at this as a watershed moment. They got there's a gleam, men. There's a gleam.
Okay. There's a gleam. Okay. And he never won it either. And his team's never won it either. Shout out, Marty. Rest in power. but makes me want to holler, throw up both my hands, and not for a touchdown. Just throw up both my hands. Listen, Michael, yes, they were sending and all this stuff, but from all the comebacks, the better team won. So let me just be clear. Better team won this game. But for all the championship game comebacks that we've seen, all of those happen because of self-inflicted damage from the losing team. Whether it's 28-3, Patriots, Falcons, whether it's the Buffalo Bills coming back against the Houston Oilers, self-inflicted. There's like a litany of stupid things, of dumb things that the losing team does, and you say to yourself as it's happening, hey, as long as they do this, they have enough to hold on, and they don't do it. They don't do it. And so, yes, the 49ers are better, but what's so painful for the Detroit Lions and their fans on all of Michigan, even way up there in northern Michigan, what's so painful for them is that they had it and they blew it. They're young,
yes.
They're talented, they've come a long way.
This is the story.
They got to go through it to get to it, but they had it.
They've been Charlie Brown with the football. But I am challenging Lions fans to repent, which means to change your mind. And part of not being the same old Lions is not looking at things the way you've always looked at it. This was not a setback. Okay. This was a setup.
Okay.
I'm preaching today. I don't know who needed to hear that. This was not a setback. This was a setup.
I'm walking out.
All right.
I'm walking out of church.
You walking. You ain't dropping nothing in the collection plate. You getting up in the middle of the sermon and walking out.
He ain't preaching to me. I'm out.
Oh my God. I'm out. Ooh, man. That's always the most awkward thing. And not even with the Baptist finger. You're not even walking out like you're going to the fellowship hall in the bathroom. You're just getting up and walking out because you heard some stuff that you fundamentally disagree with.
You gather it up. Okay, come on, we go.
Are you at least walking down the side aisle, or are you walking down the center aisle where the choir comes in for the pastor's anniversary service? You walking down the middle aisle where everybody can see you?
I'm down the middle. I'm walking down the middle.
Man.
All right.
Man, that's just
with
disrespectful.
With a scowl on my face.
There's some Lions fan out there that is hearing what I'm saying, that is proud of this team today.
That's right. You know who they are?
I'm talking as a Saints fan. That I've told this story a million times.
I tell you who
divorced that team as a teenager because those 90s Saints teams, those early 90s Saints teams, used to do the same shit in the playoffs repeatedly at home. So I get it. I'm not talking like you want a preacher who's been through some stuff. When you have you want your pastor not to preach from a place of inexperience.
You ain't never done this, preacher. Well, yes, I have.
So I am preaching. Exactly. I've been where you've been. I have been exactly where you've been. I know what you're going through right now. I know what you're feeling if you're in Detroit right now. I do.
Hey, I'll tell you who hears you. Can I tell you who hears you? The Lions fan who just got on board. Lions fan who was excited by the kneecaps. We're going to take you out. We're going to bite your kneecaps. I don't care. You got one ass team. Yeah,
and you
got one ass team. We still going to kick your ass. They have become
a national team. They really have. They've grown their fan base. Yeah.
The last few years, the casuals, they've come in. They're new.
Yeah.
They're new.
Yeah.
They don't know about the old school,
concentrated to Michigan. Right.
Yeah, like you mentioned even some fairly recent names. You mentioned Robert Porcher. They don't know about Robert Porcher. You mentioned Chris Spielman.
They don't know about Brett Perriman. They don't know about Brett Perriman.
Yeah. They don't know that Spielman played for the team.
Right.
Yeah, Lomas Brown. Shout out Lomas Brown.
Right. They don't know about Wayne Fontes.
Wayne Fontes.
Scott Mitchell.
Some good ones.
That means nothing to most people nowadays. It means nothing to most people nowadays. No, I do
Herman
think this
Moore.
team has
Remember
a chance.
Herman Moore? Scott Mitchell, Herman Moore, they had a squad. They were good. Nice little squad.
Oh, yeah. And so, yeah. No, this team has I think they have the foundation in place, and I think they've changed their internal mindset to where I don't think this is a team that's just one and done in terms of making a playoff run. I do think we'll hear more from the Lions. I think they'll get better. Listen, and there were some flaws. There were some weaknesses with this team. specifically when it comes to pass defense. Like they still have personnel upgrades that need to be made in some areas.
How about some pass catcher? How about catching? Catch. Ooh. And then to see him, look, now I know I shouldn't get into body language. But after one of the critical drops, like I just don't want to see you smiling. I don't want to see you smile. I want to see you I just want to see a little pain. And Reynolds is smiling on the sideline after one of those drops. He's talking about it, like how he could have had it. I don't want you talking about the position, the angle, or don't even try to even subtly blame it on Jared Goff. Just catch the damn ball twice. Catch the ball. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, big time. All right. Thank you, Gary. Read your text.
Mike, I know we're both fans of Marvel movies, and I don't know if we've had this conversation before, like a character or a hero that is like your favorite. I mean, there's so many to choose from, but is there somebody you're really partial to if you go over, whether it's Marvel or not? Is there like a superhero you look at and say, that's my guy? And if so, who is it?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the context. If you're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I would say that would be Iron Man. Seeing as though Tony Stark and I have a lot in common.
Yeah,
if
of
you're
course.
Talking about,
yeah.
If you're talking about Marvel versus Capcom back in the day, in the arcade, I used to do work with Wolverine. Okay, I'm the best in the business at what I do. And if you're talking about DC, it's Batman. So, because that's two things. One, I got a lot in common with genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropists.
Of course you do.
Detectives. And then
that's what everybody says about you.
The other one is, I also like arguing with people who like to say that because he's not a Norse god, or because he wasn't infected by gamma radiation, or because he wasn't bitten by a radioactive spider, somehow Tony Stark doesn't qualify as a superhero, or Batman is not a superhero, even though Batman is the leader of the Justice League. Like, you can't be the leader and strategist of the Justice League and not be qualified as a superhero.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, I don't care if he ain't from Krypton or not. Oh, yeah, it's like, come on. Like, he's a superhero.
Why? Because this group...
If you're doing the same job, that means you're a superhero.
And
he's fighting Darkseid the same way Superman is. Okay?
Leadership is a gift.
Thank you for
Leadership
asking.
is a gift. Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
You can't... It's tough to manage this group.
It's up here.
If you can manage them... So, Batman is a good one. But I like the first one you said. Iron Man.
Iron Man?
Tony Stark. Who had the brains, went to school right down the street. MIT. Right across the river here in Boston from where I am right now. But Iron Man has an answer for everything. There's an answer for everything. Sometimes it doesn't work, but most of the time it does. And that's how I see the Kansas City Chiefs and their leader, Patrick Mahomes. There's an answer for everything. So if you want to go early Patrick Mahomes, now you got to dice up his career. Like, if you say, hey, Patrick, I'm a big fan. If you go up and you meet Patrick Mahomes, say, Mahomes, I'm a big fan. He can say to you, what era? Taylor Swift. What era are you a fan of? Because early in my career, I was seen as a guy who just fling it all over the park and 50 touchdowns and, hey, I'm explosive. Now, in my career, I understand what the assignment is week to week. And I understand what I have. I have a great defense. So there are times that I have to lean on not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is gone. And not all the time Travis Kelce. Sometimes it's Isaiah. First Isaiah Pacheco, right behind me. So they were running the ball yesterday. They ran the ball last week against Buffalo. They only scored 17 points, and the Ravens must look at this and say, we have a great defense. We gave up 17 points at the crib in a conference championship game. We pretty much shut them down in the second half. We didn't allow much, and we still lost. Why? Because the Kansas City Chiefs just have a little bit more. I said this before, Mike. They got a little bit more than you do. Their gift is they just have a little bit more than you do. They don't have to have 10 times as much, twice as much, just a little bit more. Yesterday, a little bit more plays, a little bit more restraint, a little bit more just situational awareness, and that's why they're going to the Super Bowl for the 4th time in the last 5 years. Patrick Mahomes, also known as Iron Man.
Or you can go Thanos. They're inevitable. I don't know how they're here. I don't know how they're here. Like, this was not supposed to be another appearance for them. Like, with all the problems they've had offensively, specifically at the wide receiver position, because last year, you know, with Eric Bieniemy still as the OC, they became a different offense, and not only overcame Tyreek Hill's departure, but reinvented themselves and in some ways became even more dangerous. This year it looked like that absence had caught up to them. Like, yeah, about that not having a bona fide number one receiver. Yeah, you know, is Travis Kelce done? Is he cooked? 11 catches for 116 yards. Most receptions in NFL playoff history, passing Jerry Rice. Like, the Taylor Swift stuff, I'm okay with the Taylor. All right, sidebar, because I haven't talked to you in a while. I'm good with the Taylor Swift stuff. I'm good with the cutaways to Taylor Swift. It's Taylor Swift. Too. Why would you not cut away to Taylor Swift? And if you don't understand why they're cutting away to Taylor Swift, then you're probably not into Taylor Swift. And I'm saying that as somebody who's not into Taylor Swift. But I understand those that are into Taylor Swift. I understand the global phenomenon that is Taylor Swift. Like,
that's right.
If Beyonce weren't married to Jay-Z and she were in the booth, okay, and she was dating Isaiah Pacheco, more Beyonce. I would not be like, oh, I'm sick of seeing Beyonce. It's like, you know, and I'm not picking one or the other. Okay, I don't want this to get, you know, confused. I'm just simply saying I get it. What I don't like, I hope we don't have to see or hear anything else about, is the swag surfing. That made me throw up in my mouth. I really hope that there's no more Taylor Swift, Kansas City Chiefs, swag surfing conversation, or swag surfing think pieces or memes moving forward. That said, this was not supposed to be their year. I cannot believe that the Kansas City Chiefs, because people are comparing them in that inevitability, in that resourcefulness, in that versatility to the dynastic Patriots. And I cannot believe that the Chiefs went from the 2007, even though I know they didn't win, the 2007-ish or late Brady Patriots at the beginning of the Patrick Mahomes era, to the 2003, 2004 Patriots at this point in the Patrick Mahomes era. Do you follow what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like, they have become a ball control, defense, running game, physical football team.
They reversed it.
They reversed it.
They reversed. They reversed the whole Patriot.
They went from a
Patriot
team
timeline.
Right. They go timeline. I love it. They went from like, oh, just don't let him throw it over your head. Make him have to check it down. Make him have to be patient. Make them have to matriculate the ball down the field. Rest in peace, Hank Stram. To like, okay, cool. That's how you want to play. That's how you want us to play. We'll play that way. And with Patrick Mahomes sprinkling in the use of his legs, that they like to say. I love when people say use your legs. What's wrong with run? I wish I could send so many people the elements of style. Strunk and White, the elements of style. When did we start saying use your legs? How about just run?
Yes, please.
You know, but anyway, nonetheless, I digress.
Can I just a little nerd, nerd plug?
No, go ahead.
I always say,
you would appreciate that.
Elements of Style, the most important little book in America. I reread it like twice a year. Please do it.
Yeah.
Please do it.
Yeah.
Even though some of the references are dated, they're talking about word processors in there and things of that nature. However, it's still, the principles remain. Yes, run instead of use your legs. Run.
Right. So anyway, Patrick Mahomes using his legs.
So simple.
Yeah. So now I root for good stories. And it's a great story. I mean, it's a great story objectively, not for the rest of the league because, and I've invoked this reference before. You know, one of my favorite films is Troy. It's always I've always been a Troy guy. Troy, 300 Gladiator. That's always been my rankings when it comes to that genre of film. And at the end, Odysseus' character. I know a lot of people don't like Troy because like academics are like, it's nothing like the Iliad. It's like it is not historically accurate. I get it, it's not historically accurate, but it's still nonetheless entertaining. Okay, and there's a lot of
hey academics, let's have some fun. Let's have some fun.
So
okay, can we have fun?
At the end of it, at the end of it, when they're lighting Achilles' funeral pyre. I mean, they're having the funeral games for everybody at the end of the Trojan War. The narrator, Odysseus, played by Brandon Beane, who not Brandon Beane, that's the GM of the that's the GM of the Bills. No,
Buffalo Bills.
Brian Beane, I believe is his name, who also played Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. He says, "Tell them I lived in the time of Achilles." And I've used this before when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, that we're living in the time of Patrick Mahomes. But now I'm going to go, 90s Michael Jordan. Like, it feels like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, they were born at the wrong time. Maybe they're the NFL equivalent of Patrick Ewing and Karl Malone.
That's what I've been screaming.
Reggie Miller.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm sorry to be stealing your lines in, but it's just
it's not even stealing. I'm happy to hear you say it because I feel like it's the same thing. Well, I said to Mike Hill last week, he was like, hey, well, other guys, Isaiah got by Larry and all this stuff. He said, look, with all respect to Larry Bird is one of the baddest.
You said this last week? Oh, you said it last week?
Last week.
You said it? Oh, okay.
Last week.
Yeah, okay. Wow. Honestly, I did not hear you say that. And I'm sure we're not the first to invoke this comparison.
But I like this, though. I like this because, hey, you're saying it in a different way and a better way. Because Larry Bird was one of the baddest dudes in the history of the NBA. I put him in my top 10. You don't want to put him in your top 10, put him in your top 15. But Jordan is no lower than 2 for you.
Yeah.
He's probably your 1. He's most people's 1. And so it's one thing going against
Sean Bean. Thank you, Gary. Sean Bean. Thank you. I knew it was Bean. Sean Bean.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Hey,
way to be on the spot.
You try to take the
Ned Stark. Shout out to Ned
Stark. You try to take the
Michael,
crown. No, I'm saying you try to take the crown from Isaiah Thomas or Magic or Larry. It's challenging. It's difficult. But you're taking the crown from one of the best or maybe the best to ever play it. It's impossible. It's impossible. Now, crown. That doesn't mean you can't get by him because Tom Brady, as great as he was, Tom Brady, he lost 3 Super Bowls. So he lost conference championship games. I saw him lose.
Sure.
I saw him stumble and fumble and throw interceptions in big games. But in the era of Achilles, the era of Mahomes, the era of Jordan, the era of Brady, more often than not, you're going to come up short. So Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, stand over there in line. Jimmy Garoppolo is over there right now. Jalen Hurts is over there right now. They can tell you stories. They got testimonials. That a lot of people, how it looks one way on paper, but when you see them up close and you experience it, it's just hard to describe. You had to be there. And Patrick Mahomes is becoming one of those had-to-be-there quarterbacks.
Well, and you had to watch yesterday's game because you'll look back at history and see 30 of 39 for 241 yards, 1 touchdown pass, and then 6 carries for 15 yards in a 17-10 victory and think he didn't do anything special.
What's the big deal?
Right. But you know what he did? You know what he did? You know what he did? He managed the game. he managed the game. He managed the game, okay? That's what he did. He was a system quarterback operating within a system that allowed them to run the ball as they needed to, when they needed to. I mean, they didn't, I don't think they gashed the Ravens per se, but they were effective enough running the ball, controlling the ball, okay? A defense that held the presumptive, soon-to-be two-time MVP to 10 points. So he did what he had to do, when he had to do it, how he had to do it. Ain't nothing wrong with that. The system. I go back to Brock Purdy. It's the like Andy Reid, okay? Brett Veach, like this organization, the Hunt family, like it's a system. And ain't nothing wrong with him thriving and driving and being the centerpiece of this system. There's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to Steve Spagnuolo, okay? Shout out to Spags. And Spags we trust, as he was saying yesterday. Because it's not just Mahomes. He's got the I don't even want to call him the greatest receiving tight end, because that seems to diminish Gronk's receiving ability. But he's the greatest receiving tight end of all time. We have more catches than Jerry Rice in postseason history. You're the greatest receiving tight end of all time. He's not the greatest tight end of all time. That's Gronk, because you have to block as well. And I will put Gronk as number one still. But greatest receiving tight end of all time is Travis Kelce. Sorry, Antonio Gates and the like. Or even Tony Gonzalez.
Antonio Gates.
Yeah, there's
Tony
a lot.
Gonzalez.
Right, there's a lot of them. And that's just the modern guys. Shout out to Kellen Winslow.
John Mackey.
Right, there you go. Award named after him. So yeah, I mean, it was a team. It's a team accomplishment, like they all are. You don't go to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years because you're dragging subpar talent. Even though I thought it was poetic, very poetic, that he iced this game, completing a deep shot
at the end of the game, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like of course, like you can't script this.
Hey, can I give you another one? Can I give you another a shout out? That's just that nobody at home, very few people at home would even don't even recognize his name. Deion Bush. Deion Bush got the interception. Deion Bush got the interception in the end zone. And I love the people. I've been fortunate to work with some great people in my career. Just a blessing to work with tons and tons of great people. And last week, I sent my friend Amina Smith, who works at NBC Sports Boston, went to the University of Miami, where she met her husband, Deion Bush. And I sent her a text last week. I said, I think because he came into the game, early in the game, Jim Nantz, Deion Bush in. I said, oh, shout out. I sent her a text, said, he's about to get an interception. He's going to get an interception. She said, I hope so. Didn't happen. They win the game. Yesterday, Deion Bush in the game, gets an interception. So good for him, good for the family. I mean, this is a guy who has been grinding his whole career. As I said, went to Miami, spent a lot of time with the Bears playing in dime packages and nickel packages on special teams. Gets into the game yesterday because of an injury for the second week in a row and comes up big with a play that pretty much ended Baltimore's season. So I'm happy for Amina and happy for Deion.
No, that's good stuff. And I'm actually again, the Chiefs are a good story. I'm not bored by them. I hope people aren't bored by them, because when I'm big on reinvention and evolution, and when somebody
they're not bored, they just want to see him go down. They just want to see him go down, and this is what happens. It's probably not going to happen. I know we don't have to do this. We don't have to do this yet. I just think it's not going to happen on February 11th. Okay. They will lose. They do bleed. They are human. But they're not going to lose on February. I think it's funny that they're already installed as underdogs. Why? Why? Why are they underdogs? All the things you just said about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs,
listen, dude,
the things I said.
They were, listen, I don't know. San Francisco has been the better team this season. But after Patrick Mahomes, well, that don't even count as an underdog. See, I ain't even said, you bitching about 1 point.
No.
That's not,
no, it wasn't.
That's not.
The initial, that's the latest.
It opened
because
at 2.5?
Because the initial was 2.5.
Well, okay.
It was 2.5.
Just like you told me, that I don't have to do this now. We don't have to get up in arms about the odds because they're going to move in the next. They're going to move.
They'll move. We don't have to do it.
It opened at 2.5, and what changed? What changed? Now it's 1. I don't understand how they do this. I'll leave this to you. This is my bet your money.
The bettors.
Okay, fine. There you go.
Bettors got in there because they
right. So it's got nothing to do with the team. And when I say what changed, I'm not talking about like what moves the line. I'm saying the makeup of these teams have not changed in 12 hours. So this is a completely subjective guessing game exercise. There may be some science to it, but the makeup of these teams and what these teams have done to get to this point has not changed in the last 12 hours. Okay. So
do you still?
What I'm getting.
Well, just real quick. When you said, and I like your point about the system. When you talk about system quarterbacks, and you mention everybody. You don't just mention the quarterback, but coordinators, supporting cast, ownership.
System means organization to me.
Well, using that standard, do you still think San Francisco is a better team than Kansas City? Because I don't.
So yes, no, I'm with you on, even though it's 1, 2.5, who cares? I'm with you on how do you bet at this point? How do you bet against the Kansas City Chiefs? I understand betting against them even coming into these playoffs based on the regular season they had. San Francisco had a better regular season. They were the better team in the totality of this season. But after Patrick Mahomes just did what he never had to do before, and some wondered whether he could do, or the Chiefs did what they haven't done under Patrick Mahomes before, and some wondered whether they could do it, which was go on the road, and not just go on the road and beat anybody, but go on the road to Buffalo and Baltimore. Buffalo and Baltimore. In keeping with the Chiefs comparison, the Patriots comparison, it's shades of the 2003 Patriots that went through both league MVPs en route to the Super Bowl when they had to be delayed Steve McNair and Peyton Manning en route to the Super Bowl in 2003. Going into Josh Allen's house and then going into Lamar Jackson's house, that was the best team in the league this year. And emerging victorious, I'm with you. I do not disagree that it is disrespectful, if you want to use that word. It is disrespectful to have the defending Super Bowl champions, after the road they took in these playoffs as underdogs, against a team. Now, this one other, since we talk about pet peeves, you're allowed to call this one a rematch. Even though it's a different quarterback in San Francisco, and they have different players in different spots, and it's obviously a different defense in Kansas City, you're allowed to call this a rematch. Because it's only 4 years ago. Don't do the whole. Well, yeah, it is a long time, but it doesn't annoy me the way that a rematch of Super Bowl II would.
Your colleague,
and that happens way too much. We've talked about this. If it would have been Bengals 49ers, it would have been a rematch of Super Bowl 23 or Super Bowl 16. You know how that goes. That's all. So I'm okay with it. Point is, they didn't play that long ago when your boy Kyle Shanahan blew a 10-point lead.
Okay, but
which you like to remind me of.
But still.
So I agree with you that the Chiefs deserve to be favored, given their body of work, given the Patrick Mahomes of it all. He's still the best player in the league. I agree that they should be favored. I'm with you. That is disrespectful to install them as underdogs. Your original point.
Your Amazon colleague, Richard Sherman, played in that game. That's how long ago that game was. Richard Sherman played in the game. Christian McCaffrey did not play in that game for San Francisco. I mean, but I'm saying it's just like that.
No, it's different.
But it's just like
different. But the overall, the DNA of these teams is similar enough to where I will allow it to be referred to as a rematch. Is it a literal rematch? No, a literal rematch would be if they played earlier this season. So I'm not saying they're the exact same. I'm saying I'll allow it. This was just an opportunity to be on my soapbox when it comes to rematch of Super Bowl such and such. Rematches. When they played a generation ago. That's all. That was just a quick aside. But no, the teams
Can I ask you this real quick?
Different. Yes, please.
Can I ask you something else? What would you do if you were, from a parenting standpoint? Because I really felt myself having parenting moments yesterday. Like we said all these wonderful things about Kansas City. I really felt like the parent in me
Baltimore
rise
time.
up. The annoyed parent, the annoyed. Listen, man. Listen. This ain't the time to be doing this, Zay. Hey, Zay. Hey. Why are we doing that? Why are you doing that? 15. You got to stand over him and spin the ball.
You're embarrassing me in the street right now. Please don't let these people think that I'm a bad parent. Like, at least act like you got some home training. Act like
I taught you better than that. How does that help us? And then, not just Zay Flowers on the unsportsmanlike conduct.
Your kids ever talk back to you in public? Do your kids ever talk back to you in public?
I'm sure they do.
Because what's interesting is we get mad when they talk back to us in public. But we can't be surprised because I know what goes on at home. It's like, I didn't nip this in the bud at home, and now I want to act like this is some outlier when it happens in front of other people because I'm embarrassed. And like, I look like a bad parent. Well, yeah, I probably am. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So this is what happens at home. So of course they acted like this, you know.
And you start doing
I'm exaggerating.
You start doing that.
Do that no more.
Don't you dare do that here.
Because it's not about them. It's not about even the respect factor. It's just don't embarrass me. Don't make me look bad.
Don't embarrass me.
That's all it's about.
But they're like, well, you embarrassing us. You embarrassing me.
Right.
But Zay Flowers, not just with the unsportsmanlike conduct, not just not for reaching out for the goal line, not just that.
That was a great play by Snead, though. That was a great play by Snead.
That was a great play.
That was more of a great play than it was a blunder. Oh yeah, Kyle Van. Yeah, he knows better, and he knows better.
You know what I don't know if this is a thing. I just know when I watch all these shows, I watch BritBox, all these British shows. In Britain, I've seen like when people get into arguments, I've seen like headbutting is a thing there, like the headbutt is a thing. I'm like, oh. Wow, they're going in for the headbutt. It's not like here we like, a little push and like somebody might try to come up and sneak you. There, they put the headbutt in there. So I'm thinking, Cal Van Noy, you think you actually go get away with that? You'd be better off pushing, talking your ish. Once you do a headbutt, a flag is coming up. Baltimore lost their minds. They truly lost their minds yesterday. Kansas City made them lose their minds. And it's a subtle difference, but they acted like, they haven't been anywhere before. And they haven't. I hate to say it. They acted like what Lamar Jackson's record is in the playoffs.
So I was about to say, I was just about to say, like you said a whole lot, and you ain't bring up Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
You said a whole lot, and you saved him for the end, and that was a passing reference at that. Like, what were you gonna say about Lamar Jackson today? Because it's like, and I'm gonna tell you what I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna say that he can't do it in the playoffs. I'm not gonna say that he can't win in the playoffs. He hasn't won in the playoffs. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. That's different from he can't. And maybe he just has the misfortune of, again, living in the time of Achilles. Maybe.
Yep.
But to me, it was more about him and them than it was about Kansas. It was both. I think in both conference championship games, the age-old, was it more about San Francisco or Detroit? Both. Was it more about Baltimore or Kansas City? Both. So, and that's perfect timing. That stat line from the divisional round against Houston. I found myself yesterday, and I haven't watched the All 22 yet. I haven't studied the film. Steve Spagnuolo had a fantastic game plan. I'm sure the Chiefs' pass rushers were disciplined in their containment. Maybe Lamar was nursing an injury, but that's no excuse this time of year. Maybe they deployed a spy, even though I think Gay was hurt. I found myself missing the old Lamar. And by the old Lamar, to some extent, I mean last week's Lamar. Like, I want to see, like, Lamar Jackson, to me, and it's just, and I may be imagining things. Please check me if I'm wrong. But Lamar Jackson, to me, at times, looked yesterday like a guy trying to prove a point. He looked like a guy trying to be somebody. Not that he isn't, because make no mistake, Lamar Jackson is a quarterback. That quarterback-y, damn all that bullshit, he is a quarterback. It's why we got so incensed at the suggestion that he wasn't or he was less than somebody else because of his style of play. So he's a quarterback. That term has evolved in its definition. The modern quarterback is different from the traditional pocket passer anyway. But Lamar Jackson it can be and often is lethal from the pocket. I am all for growth. We talked about this a lot. Growth, evolution. I am all for him developing as a passer. I'm all for them opening up the offense under Todd Monken and him changing plays at the line of scrimmage and becoming, a more of a well-rounded quarterback than he already is. But I saw somebody yesterday, again, maybe it was my imagination, Michael, or maybe people have pointed this out and just haven't seen it. I just felt like I was watching somebody who was hell-bent on winning with his arm instead of, wait for it, using his legs. Who was hell-bent on winning from the pocket. Like, I found myself yelling at the screen saying, take off. Take off.
Take off, right, many times.
Or it's just, like Brock Purdy did. Like, there was so many opportunities, at least, again, from my naked, layman's, eye in the sky, TV angle eye perspective, that it just felt like, I'm like, Lamar, like, be Lamar. Be Lamar.
Yeah, what we
don't
doing?
be what you think. Don't be what you think they, capital T, want you to be, or what you need to be, or what you're supposed to be legitimized as a quarterback. Like, we're past that. We're past that. Hell, even from a play calling standpoint, more design runs for Lamar Jackson. Like, he is your best player with the ball in his hands. Sure, the system may ask for him to distribute the ball and get it in his playmaker's hands, but I'd rather Lamar Jackson running the ball than trying to get it into Rashad Bateman's hands. I mean, no disrespect. I don't mean to single him out, but he's got some, Likely and Andrews came back. Good for him. And Zay Flowers has got a bright future. And Odell can still make plays here and there. But, I want to see more Lamar taking the game into his hands rather than trying to distribute into somebody else's. Because he's just sitting back there, just trying to extend plays, but not extend plays the way he even did with the Zay Flowers touchdown, not extend plays that end with him scrambling enough. It was just it was almost like he was trying to force the ball downfield. And as an offense, Baltimore's identity over the years has always been run first. Justice Hill and Gus Edwards, and they're not to be confused with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, but I believe Justice Hill and Gus Edwards combined for 6 carries. This was not a blowout where they had to abandon the run. Baltimore is a punch you in the mouth team, and at their own crib, Kansas City came in and grinded their feet in Eddie Murphy's couch. Kansas City came in and they were a more physical team. They were a way more physical.
Because I can.
They imposed
Eddie can get another
will.
couch.
You know what I mean? It just felt, right. But Lamar in particular, did you see that or was I?
Yeah, I did.
That Lamar just felt like
you weren't seeing things.
Trying to win as a passer instead of being the dynamic player, the singular dynamic talent that he is.
Look, Lamar Jackson, it may have been earlier this year or last year. Lamar Jackson appeared on The Shop. It was an episode, LeBron James was on there, and Donald Glover and others on that episode. So Lamar Jackson's on there, and he was asked, I think it was Maverick Carter set up the question to Lamar. To LeBron, excuse me. Is there any advice? Because obviously he looks up to you, LeBron. Is there any advice you would give to Lamar? You know what LeBron said? Hey, man, I was 25 when I got to Miami after the decision. I was 25. And I got to the point I realized at 25 years old, I can't give a F what people say anymore. I can't give an F about that. I can't. Because they don't know what they're talking about, and it will get into your head. And so I think you're right. Lamar Jackson still thinking about maybe the scars of, hey, and it wasn't a lot of people, but it was a high-profile person, Bill Polian, saying he should play wide receiver and not quarterback. And I'm sure, he hears all kinds of madness. especially when Patrick Mahomes is coming to town. Well, Mahomes is this and Lamar is not. Mahomes can do that, and Lamar can never do that.
And you know these kids, they on social media all the time. So they see what people are saying.
And he is.
You know?
And he is out there. And you let that get into your head, take LeBron's advice. Don't give an F what people have to say. Go out and play your game. He is an unusually talented runner who is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
He's both.
But in fairness, he's going to win MVP this year for a lot of reasons, but among them is that evolution as a passer. So going back to Dan Campbell, right? It's like, you get to the dance with who brung you. Don't get away from being aggressive on fourth down, and when the chips are down in the NFC title game, don't be different and conservative all of a sudden. Whereas with Lamar, we've commended Lamar and celebrated Lamar for his development and ascension as a passer. So I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, because what got him here, in large part, was the offense that they've been running this year. But if Spagnuolo if nobody's open, and maybe this is a referendum on their skill guys still, I don't know. But if nobody's open and you're just holding the ball back there, it's like, bro, be Lamar. Take off. It just felt like he was trying to force the issue.
Script.
And again, prove a point. Prove a point that, no, I can do it this way. And I've seen guys deal with that. I've seen black quarterbacks deal with that. I've seen McNabb do that. I've seen Michael Vick go through that.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of them feel like they got to be somebody that they're not in order to have, let's call it, mainstream credibility or legitimacy. I don't know. I could be reaching. No, I'm all
you're not.
Over the place right now in general. It just felt like
I don't think you're reaching.
I wanted to see more. I wanted to see him running more. I was like, damn, where's Greg Roman when you need him? I wanted to see him running. I want to see him running more. I just wanted to, because it was that kind of game. I wanted to see a stat line more similar to last week than him running. I think it was 8 times for 54 yards against Kansas City. Maybe Kansas City just took it away. Maybe it's all about Spagnuolo.
Yeah. And I would say this. I'd say this for Lamar or anybody else who may be. I'll say it that way. Maybe. I'm not saying definitively. Who may be fighting some type of historical baggage. Who may be fighting, anonymous commenters, and some of them commenters with their names out there, and commenters and commentators. For all those who Lamar and others who are fighting that, just remember, learn from Patrick Mahomes. Learn what Patrick Mahomes has done, what we said. It comes back to Mahomes. He's doing what the situation calls for. So one day the situation may call for you to run for 200 yards. And you win a game, okay, you won with 200 yards and passed for 75. So I saw Tom Brady win one day throwing for 76 yards against Miami. He had 8 or 9 completions for 76 yards, and they won.
Yeah.
So sometimes you win throwing for fewer than 100 yards. Sometimes you'll have a 215-yard rushing day. Do what's required in advance, and don't worry about the audience as much as you are, because I think he might be.
Yeah, I'm too old to resort to legacy conversations. I know this was billed as a legacy game for Lamar coming in. I've seen that too many times, insert player here. The countless examples of players that were like, he'll never get over the hump. He'll never break through. He'll never win a Super Bowl, or, only for them to do it later in their career, or hell, sometimes the next year. It stings. I think between the two teams, I think Baltimore, and maybe this is stating the obvious, so I'll be Captain Obvious for a second here. This is way more of a gut punch than Detroit. Going back to the conversation we had earlier about how much this hurts Detroit, this is way more of a gut punch.
Why?
In my mind, because
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with you there, but tell me why. Maybe you can change my mind.
Well, because we just talked about it. I mean, Baltimore has been knocking on the door with Lamar Jackson. This isn't their first rodeo. This is the Lions' first rodeo. These Lions' first rodeo on the road against a superior team. We're singing, Chiefs Kingdom's praises right now, Nobody coming into this game yesterday, outside of Kansas City, was thinking that the Chiefs were the better team coming into the game coming into a matchup with the best team in the league this year. At home. It's one of the best teams Baltimore's had in a long time. Lamar's going to win another MVP. To me, that's way more of a disappointing performance, albeit against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. That's way more of a disappointing performance than the Lions choking away a 17-point lead against San Francisco.
You said it. Choking away.
Which part? The choking away?
That's why it's worse. Choking away. And you're right. You're right. We got to hold them to that standard. They choked. It's hard to deal with that, man. When you're up by, if they had been up by 17.
Is 17 points really as much as we think it is?
It's 3 scores. It's 3 scores. 3 scores.
It's 3 scores. And 3
scores.
It ain't 28
when
to 3.
When you're controlling.
It was 17 points. Shit happens,
when
man.
You're controlling the line of scrimmage.
How quickly did that league evaporate? That league evaporated like that.
Quickly when you fumble. When you fumble right after they score a touchdown. When you drop the ball.
Somebody's helmet. You got a ball going over somebody's helmet.
The ball goes off your helmet. Come on. I'll tell you this. Last thing. I got a text last night. It said video. I said, okay. There's a video in this text. It was from our friend Vinny Goodwill. And I open the video, and it's like a scan of the room, and it goes to Vinny, and he just says in a whisper, "I told you." I told you. See, that's somebody who's been through it. He's been through that pain. I told you.
No,
this is what happens with Detroit.
No, but he ain't been through that pain. He gave up that narcotic. That's what we talked about 2
weeks ago. That's why,
because
he is heartbroken.
He gave up that narcotic. I know.
Because he was heartbroken. It's heartbreak takes you there. I bet you he felt like a little flutter there. Like, oh, this is why. He was about to fall back in.
Yeah. All right, man. So we on record. Because, again, I ain't going to see you for a little while. We on record. You got Kansas. Naturally, you got Kansas City. I got San Francisco.
Yeah, they're going to win. They're going to win it.
All right.
Good game, but Kansas City wins. And Brock Purdy's a good quarterback.
Multiple things can be true.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.